Welcome to the Go Big With Gib podcast, a place for professionals, business owners, and entrepreneurs to talk about their big wins. I've got some great guests here today. I've got Bala Krishnan here with me, and I've got Derek Peterson. Gentlemen, I wanted to start out just talking a little bit about your background, have you introduce yourselves a little bit. I thought I'd start with Derek. Tell us a little bit about your background in business, and let's talk a little bit about your real estate background as well.
Yeah, I've had an interesting journey. When I first started off in my business career, I did the corporate America thing, right? So I was in corporate America for many years. I was in OR medical device sales. I was in software sales. And it was, I was probably in my mid-30s. I was like, you know what? I don't think I want to do this corporate thing anymore. I'm trying to go on my own. So I decided to open up a medical distribution business. So it was my first entrepreneurial venture. I had no idea what I was doing. And we just kind of figured it out as we went. And, I learned my lessons of entrepreneurship, built a good business, just built it with the wrong people, right? So I decided to exit that company. I started another one. So another medical distribution business. Went from there for about 5 years with these partners. It was my old college roommate, and then a guy that was with me at the previous company that I had a great relationship with. And we scaled the business to about 2,500 independent reps across the country. Had quite a big book of business, and had some great success. And it was back in about 2018. I said, you know what, healthcare, I've been in for a while. I don't think this is something I don't want to do anymore. And, as far as where real estate played in this part of my life, I was an LP investor in a number of different opportunities. So I knew a little bit to be dangerous, but I knew enough to invest. And that was it at that point. So I invested in several multifamily syndications, some self-storage, mobile home parks, and actually had some what I call student ghetto rentals of my own with a few partners. I think we had about 15 units in Albany, New York. And from there, I decided that the thing that I liked the most about the businesses was the fact that it was the marketing. That was an aspect that I really enjoyed. Got remarried and thought to myself, you know what? I want to get into businesses. I want to do something that I enjoy. I really enjoy being creative. I enjoy building things. So I felt like marketing was a good way for me to go. It was natural for me. Allowed me to be creative, explore my creative juices. So I decided to open a marketing firm and a travel agency, actually. The reason for that is my wife and I love to travel. It was more of a lifestyle business. Said, hey, you know what? We'll start this travel agency. We'll travel the world. We can do marketing from anywhere in the world. So we set off on our journey in 2019. I had one client. It was actually a real estate capital raising company by the name of Reliant Investments. The only reason I got that client was because the guy who's the chief investment officer at that facility, I was his first boss, a guy by the name of Chris Benson. So he pretty much owed me a favor, right? Because I got him a job when he was out of college. So worked for that company. So I had one client, right? So I had one client, I had one employee, me, and that was it. And we went on a 2-month. We had two clients. We had two clients. This guy by the name of James Lawrence, the Iron Cowboy. He's a famous dude. He's actually got a Netflix documentary. The famous triathlete guy. So I went off on this 2-month around the world honeymoon, and James fired me as soon as he heard I was going on a 2-month honeymoon. He fired me, well, justifiably so, which I get. The guys that were Reliant kept me on, and I put my name at the bottom of the website. Website proudly built by Adapt Media Agency. This guy by the name of Whitney Sewell saw it. Right, so Whitney's a big name in the real estate capital raising space. I didn't know that, and he saw the website that we built, and he's like, "I like that." So he called me up and he's like, "Hey, I like you to do mine." I was like, "Oh, cool, another customer," right? So it's my second customer ever. So I built his website myself in a thatched hut in Bali, Indonesia, with like really, really crappy Wi-Fi, and put my name at the bottom of his website again. Lo and behold, I got a lot of publicity in that space. So as the months, the weeks, and the years went by. From 2019, I continued to get more and more exposure to this space and to this industry as far as capital raising. I was still an LP investor, and I met these two guys by the name of Tim and Greg Lyons at Cityside Capital. These guys were cool dudes, right? Firefighter, and other guys in the fitness industry, really hit it off. I thought,
So Derek, all this while you were traveling, you guys are just traveling.
Traveling all over
Going
the
to
world.
all over the world.
All over the world.
Okay.
Yeah. So
All
we're
right.
all over the world traveling.
Yeah.
And, when we're back in the States meeting with clients, these guys were in the capital raising space. They were probably like my 10th client. And I was like, you know what? I was like, I really, really like this capital raising space. I think I want to get into this space. How do I do what you guys do? The guy's like, you got to skill marketing. You do a good job in this. You should just ask somebody, just continue to focus on this. And one day someone will ask you to be their partner instead of being like a fee for service. I was like, oh, okay, let's do that. Right. So about a year later, that happened. I had two guys that I started to work with. And it was just, we were just capital raising company, raising capital. And we raised about $30 million for a number of different GPs. And I got deeper and deeper into the game. I started to understand the science. I started to understand the asset classes. I started to understand real estate from that perspective, right? From pitching it or describing it to investors. So I became more educated. And I really started to fall in love with it. From there, it snowballed with my agency because so now I was in the game and building brands in that game. So both just continued to elevate. It gave me credibility in this space. Then I met Bala. That began the journey to go even deeper into the space where now, rather than being on the capital raising side, working with sponsors and operators was really had the opportunity to put the sponsor and operator hat on. So it was a pretty cool graduation over the course of about 4 to 5 years from not knowing really squat about this space to, sitting here talking to you, staring at Bala across from the table right now.
And when was that you and Bala met?
We met about a year ago, fall of, I guess it'll be 2022. Is that right? So about a year ago, we met. Now, Bala was introduced to me from another guy in the industry that we exchange a lot of referrals and business back and forth. And we honestly met just, he was looking for somebody to do his marketing and branding. And I remember I was traveling. I was up in a cabin in the woods. For it was my birthday. And we just hit it off. I remember you were taking the call from the gym. Yeah, you just worked out, and he was like, I got this idea, right? And he pitched me the idea, like he gave me the pitch, and like my mind was blown, right? Because I sit in a unique position that I get the opportunity to talk to every asset class, every operator, every capital raiser. I've heard all of the different pitches and approaches, this method, that method. And I was literally blown away with the simplicity, but just how no one was doing it and how it's such a rock star idea. And I told you that. I was like, you're onto something, dude. I was like, you got something here. And as we started to talk, he's like, yeah, I'm going to call it Zen Investing. I was like, no, you shouldn't call it that. That's not the name, right? So I told him the name. I said, it needs to be called 10 Years to Retirement.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's what it's called today. And I think that's probably what kind of sparked our relationship from there. Yeah. So, and from there, I flew out here to Phoenix. We decided to take our relationship to a different level in terms of being true business partners rather than a vendor relationship. So I was like, well, I got to fly out here and meet this guy before I shuffle my world around to dedicate time to something. And flew out here. We met. Flew out here again. Met again. And I've been out here many times since, and we just put gold shovels into the ground just today. So
let's go back a little bit. You mentioned that you get an opportunity to see a lot of different offerings, and I know, but I don't know if the listeners know. So through your work with Adapt Media, you build websites for capital raisers. Is that correct?
Yeah, we do marketing, branding, podcast development, pay-per-click, SEO, anything marketing related for those who are looking to raise capital in the real estate space, whatever that asset class is.
You've heard, you get to hear a whole lot of different pitches, and
we help them make the pitch. Yeah,
a lot of different offerings. What was it about the 10Y concept that really stood out to you?
So it was two things. There was something about you. I couldn't figure out what it is. There's something about your personality that we clicked and connected with. And I'm a gut feel person, right? And I was like, I like this guy. So I don't know why, but I do, right? Yeah.
It was a gut,
a gut feel.
And
it's a gut feel. Yeah. I was like, he had a really good story, and I felt an immediate trust at ease, with Bala. And then the methodology, what caught my attention was how simple it was, right? It's very simple, yet I was amazed that no one else had thought of the idea. I'd not seen it because we create these brands to develop and deliver a very specific message for hundreds of clients. You would have thought I would have seen this one by now, and I didn't. And then when he explained how it effectively just obliterates all the other models out there, in my opinion, I was like, I was still just blown away because, at this stage in the real estate game, it's been around for zillions of years. You figured somebody else would have boxed this up, would have packaged this up and pitched it, but no one had. So that blew me away. The exponentiality, which I know we're going to get into, what is that model? But it was the simplicity of it and the security of it, that those two together. Because a lot of times when you see these models that can deliver so much value in terms of your returns, that it almost seems too good to be true. It's usually because it is, right? So, and there's a little hair on it, but this wasn't. It was just one small little twist that made all the difference.
Bala, tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, of course. So I, very similar to Drake's story, actually. So I, right after graduation from my college, I did a master's degree. And right after that, I went to work in Silicon Valley. The first day that I walked into my job, I knew this was not for me. The 9 to 5 was not for me. I was in the elevator going up into the cubicle, thousands of other, tech professionals, engineers, computer engineers. I was just one of them. I knew this is not good for me. So from then on, any free time that I got, I was always, trying to build something, a new technology, a new product, dabbling in all kinds of things. And this went on for about 4 years. At the end of the 4 years, I had happened upon an idea that I thought had legs. Okay. And that was to use, and this was in 2008. Okay. And in 2008, I actually remember the date. It was September 15th, 2008. And I remember the date because that was the day that Lehman Brothers went bust.
Wow.
So the crash of 2008 started on that day. I didn't know what was happening, but I quit my job on that day. And I was newly married. We'd just gotten married in June, and I quit my full-time job in August. I'm sorry, in September 15th, on September 15th, right? And then I said, I'm gonna do the startup because I have this idea. I'm gonna go build a startup. So that was a long, arduous process because I didn't know that the recession of 2008 was coming then, and I was trying to start a company within that recession, during that recession. It was incredibly tough. So the capital had frozen up. It was really difficult. But me and my co-founder, both of us, really slugged it out. Those about 18 months. And then finally, we raised a very handsome seed round. It was not much. Our initial round was about $1.8 million that we raised. And this was to build a product that would eventually be known as Peel. So Peel became a hit software in the mobile app space. This was an application for the Android phones. It was actually built for the iOS phones, but then really found its home and its growth and its potential in the Android world. And it was essentially a universal remote control for your home theater devices as an software application on your phone. That was the idea. So it was, the smartphone has swallowed up the calculator, the GPS. Why not the remote control? Was the thesis. Okay. So we actually built the proof point for that. And then we went a step further and said, if you have a computer within your remote control, then do you really need to be punching in numbers like 3, 2, 1, which are really meaningless? It's actually a label to a piece of content. The computer can do that. Can we put the content on the screen and you touch that piece of content and it would then take you to channel 3, 2, 1, right? Rather than you interacting with numbers, which is a one level abstract above the contract, right?
Sure.
Above the content. So that was another idea. So we kind of like drove the whole remote control experience using content. And then the app became very popular. We were a hit in the App Store. And then later on, seeing our success, Samsung came to the door and said, we would like to preload you guys on our flagship phones and ship you worldwide. And by this time, we were doing like a couple of thousand app downloads a month is what we were averaging. So we had really good user feedback, but we weren't at scale at all. And then here comes Samsung and says, we'll put you on our flagship phone. Back in the days, it was the S3. I believe they're now on S12 right now. So 9 years ago. Right? And then when they came, they said, yeah, we'll do that. And we were like, oh, by the way, how many phones does that amount to? And they were like, 1 billion? I was, 1 billion? And you're like, okay. So I flew to Korea and went to this small, not small, but a town in Korea called Suwon, which is actually about a 2-hour drive away from Seoul, or Seoul as we know it, which is where Samsung manufacturing and R&D is. So I went there, camped out there, and worked with Samsung engineers and really integrated the app onto the Samsung phones. And then the S3 launched. It was a huge success. It was so huge that within 2 hours of the launch, it brought our servers crashing down. Right? We couldn't take the load. Like we weren't prepared for this. I mean, we were kind of prepared, but we didn't know it was going to take off so quickly. Right? And then we were just like nonstop, like adding servers, more capacity. We scaled in 2 weeks to levels that we had not like scaled at all in our previous like 3-4 years of the journey, right? We hadn't experienced that kind of scale. And then all these users came in, like, it was a big success. And after that, HTC launched next on all of their phones. And after that, it was Huawei, Lenovo, Motorola, BB, Xiaomi, a lot of these Asian phone manufacturing companies. Most of the phones were manufactured in Asia back then. Even the Apple phone was manufactured in China and Korea back then. It was designed in California, but it was all built over there. So it became from a small company to a huge company overnight. And it became a big name inside the remote control / content discovery industry. And then we then took on our next round of investment, and then the next round of investment. And within the next 4.5 years, we had raised about $100 million to build the company out and really take it to the next level, which we did. And the product became more and more sticky with its users. Like users were coming to us for content discovery and consumption. And all this was happening. And then we said, okay, let's figure out the monetization model now. Right? In the technology space, when it's a new technology, you have to fit the technology to a product and then fit the product to the user and then fit the user to the way you make money, or your revenue model as it's called. And each one of those touch points is like a new invention. It's a new product. So you're always like inventing, like nothing is already done for you. You have to figure out everything. So it's tough. Takes time. But we got there. We did that. And then we started making money. And the way we made money was every time people would choose a piece of content and start consuming that, we would throw up an ad on the phone that they could interact with. Right? So very simple model. And that started scaling. And then from few $1,000s a day, we took it all the way to like $600,000 a day. Wow. Yeah. And then after some work, there were a few days where we crossed $1 million a day. Right? So that was our high point. So those, we were doing, our annual revenue run rate was upwards of $70 million a year. The company became a big company. All this was happening, and we said, this is the height of our accomplishment and where we'll go. So we got to exit now. Now's the time to exit. So this was in 2019. Then we started planning our exit. So we went, spoke to several companies where we thought would be a great fit. And kept doing that for a while, and finally figured out a very novel way to kind of exit the business. So we had a lot of cash in the company. We had accumulated a lot of cash. So we started the distributions. Investors very happy, receiving fantastic returns on their money. That kept going on and on and on. And then finally, in 2022, we kind of exit the company. So that's my story in the tech world. And all this while, when I was doing this, when you're on a job, when you're doing something, you're always trying to invest your money in something. Right? For a lot of people, it's like the stock market or whatever it is. For me, it was real estate. My dad says that for Indians, I'm from India. So for people from India, the two things that run in your blood, my dad says, and that's like gold and real estate. Interesting. Yeah. So I wasn't a big fan of gold, but I was always been a big fan of real estate. Big, beautiful buildings, nice homes have always attracted me. So that passion never left me. So I was, on the side, I was investing in real estate. And really, the model that we kind of stumbled upon by accident was when Shri, my wife, she used to work for FICO, the credit scoring company. So she was a scientist there working on algorithms to how to determine creditworthiness of consumers and how to do that well and assign a score and things like that. So she was this math person, very comfortable with algorithms, modeling, projections, right? And I was an engineer. I was also comfortable with that. So she had this idea. So she came and talked with me about it. And that's when I was introduced to the world of multifamily by my wife, So she presented the idea. She said, this is what multifamily is, blah, blah, blah. This is what we can do. And, if we invested in this, there would be these kinds of returns. And mostly she was talking about cash flow, right? Which is the primary reason most people go and invest in real estate, is to have that passive cash flow. Right. So we also went into real estate investing for the purposes of investing for cash flow. So we went, looked everywhere. I typed on Google, what's the best place to invest in real estate? And for whatever results it threw out, my conclusion was Dallas. It had to be Dallas. I don't know why. That was 20 minutes of research. It's it checks all the boxes, Fortune 500 companies, job creation, blah, blah, blah. Everything's there. Okay, let's go to Dallas. So I flew to Dallas. I met with a few brokers, toured around the city, and I was I like these kind of properties. What's the deal with these properties? So I started having a conversation, and pretty soon we identified a property that we liked, and we closed. So this was our first real estate purchase in the US. The very first. We bought our investment property even before we bought our home.
And how many units was that?
This was exactly 12 units.
Okay.
This was 12 units, small multifamily building in Dallas, Texas.
And this is just within your personal portfolio.
Yeah,
is that correct? It's just
correct.
You and your wife investing together
Correct.
With
No partners,
no investors, no
no
partners.
investors. It was just a personal investment property office. Because we were also, I was running Peel full time, and my wife Shri, she had a full time job at FICO, and this was our investment on the side.
And how many, when through the growth of Peel,
Yeah,
what was the maximum number of employees that you had at Peel
yeah.
at any given time?
I think we probably crossed about 100 people.
Okay.
But counting the India office, we had offices in China, Korea, all those places. It was probably higher than that.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know the exact number,
Sure.
but it was way north of that.
It was a massive operation.
Yeah, it was a
in
massive
addition to that,
operation that was running in 5 continents. We had offices in 5 continents. Yeah, it was really big. And even within the US, we had like multiple offices in the East Coast, New York, Chicago, LA. We had like sales offices where we would sell advertisements on the app and all of that. Yeah, big operation.
So when was it that you acquired the 12-unit investment in the Dallas area?
This was in 2013.
Okay.
So 5 years into my Peel journey. 2008, I started the company.
Right.
And 5 years into the journey, I invested on the first deal. This was a very small deal, 12 units. And the whole thesis was, okay, we're going to purchase this property. It's not been kept up for a long time. There's deferred maintenance. We'll clean it up and we'll renovate it. The rents will be higher. And in the multifamily world, value is proportional to rents. If rents go up, value goes up, right? We all know this. So our goal was, let's push the rents up. We'll create value. That'll be the profit. And then there'll be cash flow after that. After that, we'll just hold for cash flow. That was the plan. So we executed it. Month number 10 months into the execution, we were done. All 12 units had been upgraded and we were done. We had turned all new tenants. So as the tenants went, we were renovating the units. And the whole building cycled within 10 months. And we had renovated all these units and the rents were up like 40%, 45%.
And were you self-managing those units?
No, I was not self-managing. We were living in San Jose. So I had a property manager manage it for me. And I was just, providing the capital and then the strategy and all of that.
Sure.
That's all. But then the property manager was the guy that was actually executing for me.
Handle the day-to-day operations.
Yeah. You never want to get into that
Sure.
as a person in real
You were a
estate.
long way away.
Yeah, I was a long
from
way
the
away.
property.
Yeah, but even when I'm right next to the property, I wouldn't do self-manage. You want to focus on scaling. If you get bogged down in the details, it prevents you from scaling. Anyway, so we started doing that. And then, so month number 10, we had realized we had unlocked all the potential in the property. But we didn't know enough. So we held on to the property. And then we started receiving the checks, the rent checks in the mail, right? So the property manager, at the end of every month, he'd be like, hey, this was your income. This is all your expenses. This is your net profit for this month. Here you go, check to you. Started receiving the checks. It was nice, but it wasn't much, We're kind of like turned off by the numbers on it. We're like, what do we do with this? Like, this is like maybe a nice vacation, but
So it was enough to cover, you had debt on this property.
Yeah.
And it was enough to cover the debt, enough to cover all the expenses.
correct.
And you
then
had,
produce a net profit. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right. But it sounds like what you're saying is it certainly wasn't a life-changing amount of money.
Not at all.
Or it didn't really change your quality of life or your lifestyle or anything of that.
Yeah. It probably gave us a little perk, is what I would call it, a small perk. And most people in real estate know this. They know how much cash flow is generated in these properties. Not much. Because how much are you going to, if you have like $10 million, you're not going to get into this game for the purposes of cash flow, right? You get into it when you have a few hundreds of thousands or a couple of millions of dollars to spare that you want to invest and see a return on. And those kinds of investments, like the average cash on cash return in the US on a good quality property in a good location is probably 5%, 6%. What do you do with that?
Right.
It's not much, right? So anyway, so that's what was happening to us. So we got turned off by it.
A little discouraged by the the cash flow.
Yeah, you're like, what do we do? Like, what is the meaning of this? What do we do with it? Where do we go from here? Like, if we had to like replace this, our income that we had, and we were gainfully employed, both of us. And if we had to replace all of that income with real estate, this is going to take us like 25 properties. And each property takes like years of saving up to like go and purchase. So the math wasn't adding up for us. For a lot of people, I don't know why, but maybe they never do the math. They like it and they hold on to it. But we could see through that this wasn't going to do anything for us. All right. So we kind of like kept thinking about it, We actually thought about it for a long time because we were done by month number 10. Month number 11, we received our first check, which was not very flattering. And then after that, it was month number 22, another 11 months. We held the property for another 11 months. And then we said, you know what? Let's sell it. I don't think this was a good idea. Let's exit. So I put it on the market. The same broker that purchased the property for me helped me sell it. And he sold it and then gave me a very cool return of 2.35 times my original invested equity. That was the aha moment for me. When I saw that multiplication, 2.35x, and I was like, I am so stupid.
And this is in 22 months.
22 months.
22 months, yeah.
But keep in mind that I had unlocked the value in month number 10.
Right. But
I sat on it.
You held on to it for longer.
If I'd sold it right then, I would have made all of
Money
that
back
return
then.
in that short a period of time. But I did. So when I saw that multiplication happen, that multiplicative power of real estate, I was hooked on that. I said, this is cool. Like, this can take us somewhere, right? And then after that, it was just an exercise in modeling for me and my wife. If this is going to be the methodology, then how can we craft an investment plan that would take us to financial freedom? So then the question is, okay, what is financial freedom? So we said, okay, let's replace our current income. It was like, whatever. Like we came up with a goal. We said, okay, that's the first bet that we do. Okay, can we do that? And then if we have to do that, what would it take? So our math was telling us that if we did the same thing that we're doing, so invest, double your money, and then don't take and use that money up, but do redeploy all of that capital, like roll that money into the next deal, a larger deal, obviously, because now you've doubled your money, you have twice the purchasing power, you roll it into the next deal, and then you roll it one more time, and you keep rolling this, right? Then it starts to multiply and go exponential, right? Because there's this cumulative multiplication that's happening, multiplication over multiplication. In arithmetic theory, in math, say counting is the first math operator, counting. Repeated counting is addition. Repeated addition is multiplication. Repeated multiplication is exponentiation.
Okay.
So in business,
Makes sense.
It doesn't matter what business you are in. If you can always model your business for exponentiality, you can go exponential. So it became the problem statement for us to solve was very easy. Take the 2x multiplicative factor in real estate and create an investment plan to take you to retirement was the problem statement. And then we came up with a model very quickly. And the plan was telling us that if we repeatedly multiply this 5 times and put our capital through 5 cycles of the same thing that we were doing, then we would get to financial independence. Now, if you did this 5 times, you're multiplying this 5 times by 2. So first you put in 1 becomes 2, then 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, and so on. If you did this 5 times, the multiplicative power is 2 to the power 5.
32x.
32x of your original invested capital. And our model was telling us you can hit this in 5 cycles. Assuming each cycle in real estate takes approximately 2.5 years, he said this model could get us to retirement in 10 years. So that was the model. It was a very simple model. We put it up on our big screen TV at home. Me and my wife looked at it, and we said, yeah, let's try it. So we did try it. So we kind of rolled all that capital over into our next deal, and we kept going. And 8.5 years later, we had hit our numbers. We had built the portfolio up to a place where it was generating passive income that would replace our
Ordinary income.
required income.
Right. Right.
It replaced it. But the key thing was we did not model for cash flow, or we did not aim. Cash flow was not the goal in the beginning. I started out with cash flow as the goal, but I soon realized that if I played that game, we would go nowhere. I would probably own 3 pieces of real estate, one 12-unit, one 4-unit, one 6-unit, something like that today. That's all it was going to do, right? It wasn't going to go anywhere. But that little twist, that if we figure out a way to double it and then keep doubling it, then it could get you somewhere. That little twist in the game got us to retirement in about 8.5 years. I was still running Peel all this while. And for me, it was just amazing, looking at something grow with just, part-time attention from me. Because I was still full-time employed in Peel. I was super busy. I was traveling all the time. And this was just growing by itself. Of course, I was involved in selecting the next property, figuring out what to do. But those I could do from anywhere. I didn't have to be at the property to do these things. And I always had good property managers to pull it off for me. And they did. And it was fantastic. So finally, when we got there and then we exit Peel, we said, you know what, let's package this together, because this is unique. And through this journey, we met a lot of people. We met a lot of gurus. I paid for some masterminds here and there, met a whole bunch of people and saw what they were doing, and got really turned off by the IRR returns that they were giving. Because most of these guys were doing they were all about 12% IRR, 15% IRR. That was it. And me personally, on my real estate front, I was doing 40, 50, 60. I've even done 120% IRR on some of my deals. So I was looking at these guys. Yeah, I was looking at these guys and thinking, what the hell is going on? Why are they doing this? But anyway, so we kept looking at that, and then we said we should pack. So after we kind of retired, we said, let's put some distance between Silicon Valley and ourselves. Because if I stayed in the Valley, I would have done another company. I had an ecosystem. I had people that would readily invest in me in the next company, and that would have been very easy for me to go and do another company. And so we said no. We had 2 little kids. We said, let's focus more on the family and put some distance between us and Silicon Valley, and find a nice warm place to go to. We thrive in warm weather. We're from India. So we said, okay, where is warm? So we said, okay, there's Miami, there's Hawaii, there's Scottsdale, Arizona. And, Scottsdale, Arizona was thrown into the mix because I went to school at the U of A when I came to the US. So I'd been to Arizona. I studied here. And then I'd been to Scottsdale. I remember how much I liked the weather here, even though it's very hot sometimes. So I decided we should give that a try. So we went to all these places, and then we said there was also Singapore in the mix. So Singapore was also a crazy thing in the hat. And then we said, okay, Singapore is too hard because Singapore is, out of the country, too much movement, So we said, okay, no to Singapore. But we said, okay, we will go try out Scottsdale, we'll try out Miami, and we let Hawaii go as well because it's so far away from mainland. 7 hours time difference, it's crazy. So we said, okay, just these 2 in the mainland. Both have warm weather. So we went and tried it out. We kind of liked it here. We liked the vibe here. We thought, even compared to Florida, we thought the vibe here was more relaxed. And the opportunity in the real estate space was just huge in Phoenix. In the Phoenix MSA was just huge. There's so much industry, so much promise. And it was, I could see that Austin was maybe a decade ahead and Phoenix was following Austin. That's kind of the mental image I had when I first drove around Phoenix and saw everything, right? So it was a great market to be in. And Phoenix was always a very hot market to be in terms of real estate. I said, okay, we can just go there and pursue our real estate style, investments, and we'll just do that. So we came here. So we settled down in Paradise Valley here, and then we said, okay, let's put together our investment methodology or a philosophy in a package, and let's help other people also get to retirement in a relatively short amount of time. So that's what we did. And I thought, so I was at this conference in New York, Manhattan, and I'd met with a whole bunch of people. There was one of those guys there. I started talking to him. He was doing active campaign. His name was Jason. So I met with Jason. I was talking to him about all of this and said, I need to build a website. He said, well, the person you need to talk to if you want to build a website in this space is Derek Peterson. And I said, okay, introduce me to Mr. Derek Peterson. So he did. And then that was the meeting that Derek was talking about. I was working out because I'd forgotten the meeting. And then I got the alert. So I ran down, took the call. I met with him. And then I explained this whole strategy to him. And then, I think like an engineer. I think like a product guy. But he's a marketing guy,
Right.
And I could see that difference, right? Mm-hmm. Because I was like, I would think about the product from like ground up and then give it a name that made sense in my head. But the way he thinks about it is, how does it make sense to the end user or the customer, right? And he would name it from that angle. That's his superpower. So he heard my whole story, and then he said, so what are you going to call this? Or what are you going to name this? So I said, Zen investing, because it's all about Zen. It's the right methodology. It's the right investment philosophy. It's risk mitigated, and it's going to get you to retirement. It's all about Zen, is what I told him. And I had this cool, fancy logo that I designed myself and all of that. And then he looked at everything and he said, I think you should call it 10 years to retirement. And I thought that was,
Is this your first phone call?
This was the first phone
with
call.
Derek?
Yeah.
So you all
Very first
really
phone call.
started a collaboration really right there on that very first phone call, which is pretty remarkable, I think.
Yeah. I think it didn't happen until he said 10 years to retirement. When that happened, I think it was, lack of a better word, it was love. At that point, that sparked something inside both of us.
Yeah, you gave a name to it, and that
It captured it so succinctly, and he said, that's it. And then he was like, that should be the name of your podcast, if you ever do one. We haven't even started that. We've been so busy with our first raise, which we just completed, and we're coming back from the groundbreaking ceremony and all of that. But we are on the pathway of launching the podcast and everything. So he said, you should name it 10Y, and that should be the name of the brand. And I just let him loose on that. I said, okay, it's your baby, you run with it. So he did all of that, the first iterations of the branding, the color scheme, the imagery. He did everything. And he came up with the concept. He built the website. Very cool. Now we're on the second iteration of redesigning that website. I think it's going to be even better. So really that's the story. Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. Really interesting how you all came up with such a great takeaway from your very first phone call. I think that's always
Love at first sight, as Bala said.
yeah. It's sometimes you have those experiences. You're in the right company when you can collaborate in such a meaningful manner and take somebody's concept that's just it's a well thought through concept, but really add a name to it and then talk about how you're going to market it to potential investors. So talk to me a little bit. So I guess let's talk a little bit about what we did today. So today we went out to the groundbreaking ceremony for the very first property, Zen at Thomas. And we had some shovels out there, and had an official ceremony where we are excited to announce the very beginning of this journey that we're going on. So this very first property, let's talk a little bit about that. It's Zenit Thomas.
Yeah.
It's already fully funded. We raised $18.5 million in a very short period of time.
Yep.
I know, was it 4 weeks, Derek?
4 weeks, yeah, 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
And Derek, I know you were instrumental in putting the team together as far as the partnership. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah.
How you went about assembling a team like this, because it is. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but this is a really special team. I feel like the last 24 hours we've been together, and one thing that I notice is that everybody in this group is a genuinely nice person.
Mm-hmm.
They're well-intentioned. They want to put the investor first, and that is the non-negotiable, in this whole thing. And I'm really impressed with the team that you all have put together. Obviously, I'm flattered to be a part of it, but tell us a little bit about how that came about, Derek, and how you did this in such a short period of time.
Yeah, so I think when you start an entrepreneurial venture, you got to wear a lot of different hats, right? So I may have come in as the website marketing guy, but quickly transitioned to let's go find some capital.
Let's solve whatever problem.
Whatever problem it
solve.
is. Yeah, we need to,
Exactly.
whatever the problem is, put on the hat, and I'm all for it, I'm all about it. So I sit so in a unique position that I get an opportunity to meet with so many amazing capital raisers that are in different stages of their journey, right? So, typically the people that I work with, some of them are sponsors and operators, right? So they're really in charge of standing that project up. And some of them are they don't want to do that. They just want to raise capital with great sponsors and operators. So I get the opportunity to meet a lot of these folks, help them develop their branding, their messaging, and really get to know them, like you, right? And I'll use you as an example. So we had an opportunity to meet. I remember on the phone for the first time, and this is an experience I have a lot of clients. And then you were one of the rare few that when it came time to shoot video, you came out to Charlotte. You went the extra mile. You came out. We had some time to spend face to face. So I really got to know Gib, what he's all about, his personality, his character, his qualities, and the market you were going to sort of attack. And I kind of just saw the attributes of you as a human being. I thought to myself, this is a guy that we want on our team, right? For a few reasons. And really for Bala and I, it came down to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bala, it was really two things. One, and most important, were they a good dude, right? Or dudette, right? Were they a good human being that had good character, good attributes, and somebody that we want to spend the next 10 years with, right? Normally in the capital raising space, when there's a capital raiser and a sponsor operator relationship, it's short term, it's short lived, right? You're slinging a deal, I'll go help you raise some capital. You may be hanging out for a few months. And after that, you just wait. You just wait for your check in the mail, right? Not in this, right? This is a long journey. So Bala and I want to be very intentional with the people that we brought in, because we really want to build this entire backbone of this business is to do with the team and the people. And this guy here has done a stellar job putting together a team. And I don't want to screw that up by bringing in some co-GPs that would sour that. So we want to make sure they were great people. And then second to that, they had what we felt the proven ability to raise capital. And, in the beginning, we had a lot of people that hadn't raised capital yet, right? So we weren't actually too sure, right? So
And you took a risk on some of the folks, like me, for example. I had never raised capital before. I thought I could do it. I had a good network of people, but you must have seen something that he's got the attributes, even if he doesn't have the experience, he's got the attributes that give us a good feeling that he could be successful at that.
100%. Yeah, it came down to, skills can be learned, right? And I felt the skills that are required to raise capital can be taught, can be learned. The branding can get dialed in, but the attributes of that human being are really what's more important. And I saw that in you. And
there was always a test that we both would go through. And the test was, we would imagine in our mind's eye that we are sitting at a conference room, around a conference room table, and all these people are sitting here. How would that meeting go? Would that be a good, constructive meeting with the right energy and everything, or would that be full of conflict and negative energy, right? It was all about that, right? And if it was, we felt like, oh, this person wouldn't be a fit there for whatever reason, they don't fit in that room. They wouldn't be comfortable. They wouldn't make us feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So we would say, nope.
No. And we said no. We said no quite a bit. We said no more than we said yes, if I'm being honest. So we were faced a few times with situations where, we felt somebody could bring, remember there was 2 criteria. The second criteria being, can that person bring capital? There were people that we felt could bring a lot of capital to the table because of the way they were positioned in the market and the relationships they had. But we just felt that they didn't meet that energy requirement that we were looking for. So we decided to take a pass and be very, very selective. And we have the group that we have today, which is going to continue to grow. We're going to go through that same selective process as we build this team out, be very, very, very selective. But I'm proud of this team that Bala's put together and that we've been able to tether on you, Mike, Tyson, Nancy. Our entire team is just stellar individuals. And what's great is we had the first in the room thing that we envisioned. It happened this week, right? So we actually got a taste of what we envisioned in our mind, and it exceeded all expectations in terms of the energy that we expected in the room.
That's right.
So yeah, 100%.
It sounds to me like, Bala, you are, I know you're located here in Phoenix.
That's right.
You're the boots on the ground, administrator. You're orchestrating everything in terms of the Phoenix side of things. But as far as the capital raisers go, Derek, it seems like you put together the capital raising team, and I know you're based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And so you really, talk to me about the capital raisers. Where were they located? Were they, because I got to meet a lot of the folks today. It seemed like they all had, there's a lot of diversity in terms of where people were from. There was not like I didn't see it like a hyper focus on any one particular market or area.
Yeah, we wanted some diversity, right? I didn't think we wanted to get niched down into one arena. People that want to invest into an opportunity like this come from all walks of life. And so, I kind of roll through the folks. We've got you, right? It's kind of, you're out in my neck of the woods, right? You're a Southern boy, say y'all and all that. Chicken and waffles, fried chicken and waffles.
That's right.
And and so it was a good media bond with you, and I felt that your professional entrepreneurial background, the fact that you're a rock star attorney, that I just knew you had these strong, deep-rooted relationships and a great ability to communicate. Like most attorneys, have great ability to communicate and make a point. That's what you do for a living. So I said, this is my guy, right? It's also good to always have another attorney on your team. Let's be honest, right? So then we've got Nancy Wynn. So Nancy's an ophthalmologist. No, I'm sorry, she's an eye surgeon.
Optometrist, but
ophthalmologist.
Yeah. Okay. It's a real long word that starts with an O. She does that. Yeah. She's
an eye surgeon.
An eye surgeon, yes. Enough said, yeah. Very, and what I love about Nancy is she has an energy about her. She's very vibrant, bubbly. She's just, her investors love her. In fact, she was our very first webinar, and I've been on a lot of investment webinars raising capital. This is Bala and I's first, right? So we were just kind of figuring this out as we go, him and I. And she had, I think, 12 or 13 people that were on the call. And her investors loved her, right? She'd raised capital before. Like, they clearly knew who she was. And so all 13 get on. They stay on for, it was like an hour and 45-minute webinar, insanely long, but no one dropped off. So first of all, I was impressed by that. Because I figured, wow, this is really dragging out. This is getting kind of long, Bala, get to the point, right? And then, so then we end, Bala calls me up, and he's like, how'd you think that went? I was like, it seemed good. No one hung up on us. That's a good thing. And I was like, what about you? He's like, I don't know. How do we find out? I'm like, let's log into the portal. So we logged in the portal, and everyone had opted in to invest. Every one of her investors that were on that call, all 13 invested. Which of them? I was like, whoa, right? So that was a testament to the messaging. That's a testament to the 10 Why methodology, but it was also a big testament to Nancy's relationships with her investors, big time. So So then we've got Tyson Cobb, right? So Ty Cobb, great name. So Tyson's he's an orthopedic surgeon, like a big time, like a legit orthopedic surgeon, jack dude. And I actually met Tyson through Mike Downey. So Mike Downey is a client of mine. So I'm actually gonna start with Mike first, and I'll get back to Tyson. So Mike is Mike's another guy that I met, and I did his marketing and his branding, much like you, much like Nancy. And he just had this like quiet intensity about him. It's probably the best way I can describe Mike, this quiet intensity. I've come to find that he is a self-admitted perfectionist, and he is like building his brand. It was like every little thing was just nitpicked, and which I appreciate. And I was like, this guy has an attention to detail, and he's in the agricultural space, right? So, and he had this intensity and this energy about him, and these deep-rooted relationships, because he's a salt-of-the-earth type of individual, like you, like everyone else. And I was like, this guy I think will do really, really well in some of those rural markets, in the ag space. And he came as a package deal with Tyson Cobb. I don't know how they know each other, if I'm being honest. So,
I know they live about an hour apart from each other in Iowa.
Okay.
And like you said, Mike deals with farmers a lot and helps farmers with their, I think it's like a
succession plan.
Yeah, exactly. And then Tyson's an hour away. And I also know that they're members of the same mastermind. And
that's probably it.
They're in a multifamily mastermind together. And I know they have that in common, as well as one of the other gentlemen that was here today was also in that mastermind. So all three of them knew each other from a mastermind.
Yeah, Tim.
Well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so Tyson came along, and it was kind of it was Tyson and Mike, so we nicknamed him Team Mike Tyson.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Team Mike Tyson. I don't know if they know that, but you know now.
I think they've caught on to it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. As much as we said, "Come here, Mike Tyson,"
But they knocked it out. All puns intended. It was a total knockout. I mean, they raised a great deal of capital for us. They did a fantastic job. And it gave me an opportunity to kind of jump in the driver's seat with them, because in creating their branding, I was able to kind of jump in and help steer it for them a little bit, because it was their first time, right? Same with you, and Nancy had some experience, so gave me an opportunity to test drive their brands that we just created, and we were really, really happy with the outcome, and really really, really excited about the team, who they are and what they're about, and what this team's going to do, for the next 10 years plus. Yeah.
So it sounds like there are 4 co-GPs that you brought in, and was Nancy first?
Nancy first, I think.
Yes, she was.
Nancy was first. Yeah,
And
she was first.
I'm assuming I might have been second, but
You were
I don't
second.
know. I know.
You're first in my heart.
webinar.
You're first in my
Thank
heart.
you. I appreciate that. And then
It was Mike Downey
Mike Downey,
and then Tyson.
and then Tyson.
Yep, that's it. That's the team.
Bala, talk to us a little bit about how you put together the boots on the ground team, because I know that the capital raising is just, one element of what we're doing. And you put together a really impressive team of operators and, people that are going to actually handle the building process and that you're overseeing here.
Absolutely.
In Phoenix.
Yeah. I mean, let's take a step back. So when you actually look at the methodology, we're talking about, 2 to the power 5 multiplicative effect, right? So if that effect were to be put into operation, and if that became the investment philosophy, then we're doubling every cycle. And if you start with 100 units in the first cycle, at the end of the 5th cycle, you are 32 times those many units.
So now you're at 3,200.
1,200 units that you'll have to build in the final cycle.
It's a lot. That's a lot of units.
It's a lot of units, right? And we wanted to do this in 4 individual cohorts, meaning we wanted to put 4 properties in play in parallel, right? Which means, think about the number of units we'll have to build in the last cycle. It's a big number. So because I appreciate that part of the business model, that's what is so amazing about this model, is that it's exponential. When it's exponential, you have to be able to handle it. Your business needs to have the capacity to handle it. So right from day one, I knew we're not building capacity for today. We're building capacity for the fifth cycle, which means if I look around the Phoenix MSA market and I say, how many people or real estate professionals here have built thousands of units? Thousands of units. The answer is very few. There are a lot of people in real estate, they build, 20 units, 30 units, maybe 100, 200, 300 units maybe. But thousands of units, very few. So then I went looking for them. And obviously, because of how much they've accomplished in this market, they are the rock stars of the Phoenix metro market, right? So I knew that to build capacity for the successive legs of the business, I had to have a rock star team in place. So I went looking for the rock stars. And so then the question is, okay, how do you recruit a person who's at the top of the game, building thousands of units for some big name development company? Why would they leave that and come be a part of your team, right? So the answer really is, I've done this before at the tech company as well. And I know that, enthusiasm is infectious, right? So if your intent is true, it motivates other people.
Sure. Sure. It makes sense.
Yeah. So that had to be there. And I had lots of that. Right? And then the next was, you had to be generous in bringing them on board. You had to be very generous with how you divvy up stakes in the company and make them like significant shareholders in the company. So they can see an outcome here with us that is far and beyond what they would do outside. Far and beyond outside.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to craft, not be greedy with the money and say, okay, I'm going to give you just a salary. Like that will go nowhere. All right. So, it's good to be greedy. I'm not throwing greed under the bus. I like greedy. But what are you greedy for is the real question, right? If you're greedy for money and you're so money focused, then your outcome might suffer, right? But if you're greedy for the outcome, then you don't think much about the money. You're focused on the outcome. And if the outcome is good, the money will be good. So I was just focused on the outcome. We need to have a great outcome here and build a team that has the capacity to take us through. And that means we have to compensate them well. We have to show them a vision that is huge and that is doable, and that when they come in, they believe that this team can pull it off. So that's what I ended up doing. So it took me almost 2.5 years, but I was able to attract the best of the best in the Phoenix metro market to come be a part of this team. Right.
And so at this point, you've got a contractor. I know you have several people involved. Kind of tell me how many people are involved at this point?
Yeah.
I know it's growing rapidly. Tell me a little bit about what the different roles are.
Yeah. So let's start, let's go department by department, if you will.
Perfect.
Yeah, okay. So in the legal department, we have a general counsel, we have a zoning attorney, we have a securities attorney, and we have a construction law attorney.
So we have 4 attorneys.
We have 4 attorneys.
Not including
yourself.
myself.
Yes, you're the 5th.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And all these guys are at the top of their game. They are the best of the best in the Phoenix market. And they're with us. And they're all stakeholders in the game. All of them. So that's on the legal side of things. And then I started with legal because that's where our pipeline kind of starts. Anytime you see a property, you have to write a purchase sale agreement. You have to draft that contract. So it starts with the legal department.
Sure, chronologically, that's the first step.
And then after that, the acquisitions team steps in and they look at the property, there's due diligence done on that, pro formas built, all of that. So for that, it was, again, a team that we put together. It was a land planner / landscape architect. That's Andy Barron at Abla Studio. Andy is a visionary in this market. Top of the game, works in probably 6, 7 states, maybe more. And he's probably planned close to 100 master plan communities all over the US. He's done Jack Nicklaus golf courses, working with Jack Nicklaus. He's done multifamily buildings. He's done active adult communities. You name it, and he's done it.
And he was with us at the investor dinner last night, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was there.
I think he might have been the first person you introduced
that's right.
as well.
That was Andy, yeah. So Andy's a pretty big name, he's a rock star in the Valley. And he's here with us doing all the, he really is the visionary, right? When he sees a piece of land, he's the person that envisions, okay, what can be done here? Not just like what can be built to make money, but we want to do it in a beautiful, aesthetic, thoughtful manner that's both functional and beautiful, right? So all of that is Andy. And then after that, we have Shelby Duplessis, who joins us from Empire, which is a big build-for-rent construction company. And she ran all land planning and acquisition for Empire for about 8 years. So she joins us doing the same role here. So she does the due diligence, all the analysis, looking at all the permits, the survey, all of that. She's a trained civil engineer by trade. So she does all of that work.
And she's been in the Phoenix. I had an opportunity to speak to her today. I know she's been in Phoenix for a long, long time. She has a lot of long-standing relationships with folks.
Yeah.
And understands, who to talk to and has those positive relationships to move us through the process.
That's right. Yeah. All of these people on the team have very deep roots in the community. Very deep roots. Right. They've been like Andy, for example, was the commissioner of the Planning and Zoning Commission of Chandler for like 8 years. So he did, he passed and he made decisions along with his committee, of course, but on planning and zoning cases for 8 years, right? He designed a whole bunch of what today is Chandler, So lots of deep community roots. That's very important in real estate because you got to know the vibe of the market. You got to understand, okay, where is the next opportunity? Where's the hottest city to go into? Where is the jurisdiction very supportive of what we're doing? Where are they not? What are the reasons? All of this is very organic. You cannot search this on Google and get it. It comes through like osmosis,
right?
By being with people and knowing them through relationships. So that's Andy and Shelby on the acquisition side of things. So Andy, Shelby, Brennan, who's our zoning attorney, really are our acquisition team and entitlement team. So they get the projects entitled and all done. So one unique thing about us is we do not put investor capital at risk when we are zoning or getting entitlements done. Right? We put up the cash ourselves, my own personal money, to and I take that risk personally. Right? Because zoning and entitlement risk is a binary risk. You could get it or not. It's not like you get it 70%.
So just to go back, did you say it's a binary?
Yeah, it's
risk?
A binary
risk.
So one or nothing.
You're either going to,
you're going to get it or not.
Pass or fail.
Yeah, pass or fail.
Right.
So that's too risky to put investor capital into. Right. So we don't do that, obviously. So we take that risk on our dime, and then when the project is fully entitled and all those risks are off the table, is when we package that up for investor community to come in. So really, when our investor community comes in, they're putting up the equity for the construction process. That's what they do.
Sure, it's de-risked from that perspective. They're not having to worry about, are we going to get the permits? Are we going to get the entitlement?
Correct.
We already have those things before we accept any of their funds.
Any of their money, yeah.
Right.
And we will not accept their money before that. We don't want to put their money in that phase of things. So that's the acquisition team. And part of the acquisition team is also David Bond, who's also a civil engineer. So he draws all our civil diagrams and all of that. And of course, our our builder partners is Makers Line, and those guys are the GC, the general contractors on the job. They're a national level firm. They operate in 11 states. They're here, and we have selected them because they have the capacity to scale with us. Because I'm always thinking capacity, and I cannot like give it to a small company and expect them to scale with me. I need to make sure that they already have this capacity. So when we scale, they're there to, support all of the capacity that we throw at them, or all of the demands that we throw at them. They have the capacity to take care of it. Right? So these guys have that. And really, when we are analyzing properties, this whole team comes together and analyzes all these different parts. We have other two people, which are builders themselves, but they're kind of in-house construction specialists. It's Richard Lorenzen and Dean Young. So these two guys, again, fixtures in the Phoenix market. They've been around forever. Dean himself has probably built like 96,000 homes in this market for different companies, supervising and being the man who delivers these units. So really a lot of construction depth and capacity in the team. And everybody's involved from day one. Like as soon as we have a signed LOI, like information goes out to everybody. We all like meet together. It's like several times a week that we review these deals together to figure out, all these things,
Earlier today, you mentioned to me that even the property manager, who I don't know that we've talked about.
That's right. I missed him. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Dale Phillips.
Dale Phillips.
Even the property manager, you brought him in at the
GP level. Yeah.
At the and he also is getting information, in real time. Yeah. So it's not that we're building out this townhouse community and then handing it over to him and saying,
correct,
here, you run it.
Yeah.
We're actually consulting with him throughout the process. What do we need to, what kind of amenities do we need to have for this place to be the most successful, to be able to maximize profits and things of that nature? Tell us a little bit about Dale and his background.
So Dale Phillips, runs Stellar, which is a very popular, very well-known, respected property management company here in the Phoenix MSA. He ran Mark Taylor for about 12 years, I think 12 years, if I'm not mistaken. Mark Taylor, again, is a very big property management company. He was CEO there for several years. And then he came out and started his own firm, and that's Stellar. So I've spoken with several property managers out there. Dale is local to the Phoenix market, knows the Phoenix market so well. And he is, when you talk to Dale, you will understand that he's done this job before. And, what I mean by that is, for you to have the depth and the appreciation for leasing a unit and understanding all the problems that you could have, you need to have successfully leased units, and you should have faced adversity trying to lease units, and then figuring out a solution and then solving that problem. Not many property managers have that kind of an experience. So for someone to have that experience and then look at a project through that lens, saying what could go wrong here, that's more important than thinking what could go well here. And he brings that vast, deep experience to the team. And anytime we see a property, he's part of the team, that reviews all these material on day one. He looks at everything, and he tells us, this is possible, this is not possible. Your pro forma is off. You guys, your rents are too low, because I know I can get more rents. If Dale says he can get more rents, he can get more rents. You know what I mean? So he has that experience to tell us and be confident about that. And we feel extremely confident when Dale says he can achieve a certain number, because he knows, he has so much experience leasing thousands and thousands and thousands of units in this market, that if he says he can get it done, he can get it done, right? So all of this, this entire team comes together, looks at every single deal in detail, and we have rigorous meetings and reviews before we go to any process. And even our underwriting process is extremely conservative, right? We want the deal to work in the conservative underwriting model. We don't want it to work in a optimistic model. We want it to work in a pessimistic model. If it does, then we consider that a safe deal. Then we'll go do that deal.
Tell me a little bit about what you love about build to rent townhouses, like we're doing with Zen at Thomas, compared to your value add proposition, your traditional multifamily value add proposition.
Yeah. Yeah. I love value add. I started my own real estate journey doing value adds. And then value add just dried up because there was a lot of money chasing value add deals because, you have to face it. It's easy to execute. And if it's easy to execute, there's a lot of people chasing those deals. So there's a lot of people chasing those deals. Prices get inflated because there's too much demand. Everybody's fine getting like a 10% IRR, 12% IRR, and they overpay, stupidly overpay in my opinion. They make the deals not work. And these deals are like running on fumes, if you ask me, because they're all running on rent projections. 3%, 3%, rent appreciation,
Based
and then
on
the deal kind of like works. I don't like those kinds of...
Right. And that's based on rent growth,
Yeah.
which would be a market condition that is
It's speculative.
Is out of your control as well.
It's speculative,
right?
yeah.
Right.
It's speculative. Like, I don't like speculation. I like to put the work in and see the value, right? If I want to speculate, it's far easier speculating in the stock market. I don't need to speculate in the real estate world. It's much tougher. So yeah, we don't like speculation. We like to put in the work and see the value immediately, right? Which means our underwriting has to be not assuming variables that keep on growing into the future. Although there are certain aspects to that do that, but not that the entire deal stands on that. Like even if we discount that completely, the deal should still work.
Right, because
those are the deals that we'll do.
Traditionally your expenses are going to increase over time. And a lot of the deals I see, they're anticipating a certain amount of rent growth, but also the expenses are going to increase incrementally as well.
Yeah.
And so, but it's totally based on market conditions, which are totally out of our control.
Yeah. And so, you have to, so I'm a math guy, right? A 15% IRR means you double your money every 5 years. If you do the math, that's what will come out. I don't like those deals.
And that is your traditional syndication
That's the traditional
model.
It is.
Real estate syndication model, 15% IRR, every year 15%. So one becomes 1.15. Then next year you multiply that by another 1.15. It keeps going up like that, right? And finally gets to 2x after 5 years.
Maybe it gets to 2x, not all the time.
The prices have been so inflated because there's a lot of capital chasing deals, right? Like before COVID, during COVID, there were brief slowdowns in the market. But even then, there's a lot of money chasing deals that do not expect high returns. And this has been the bane of the real estate industry, in my opinion. This has killed good deals because people are willing to live with lesser returns. And they just assume that's all they can do, So the value add deals have become extremely unattractive to a lot of people, including me, because there's nothing exciting about them anymore because you're overpaying for it all the time. Sellers expect you to pay, the value that you would realize once you do all the work. And then if you do that, then your only hope is rent growth. Then you're again in the speculation game. So really people are like operating on like margin thin returns. And if things go a little up and down, they could like take out these businesses, which is what has happened. A few businesses have gone belly up because of this issue, right?
In particularly if they overpaid for it, or
and
if
interest rates went up, and now they can't do anything because their cash flow margins were so thin, their operating margins were so thin, right? So this is a big problem, right? So when I look at the whole market, like I'm always like searching for, okay, where are the bigger returns? And I can tell you with a lot of confidence that when you build ground up, there's a lot of value there. Because it takes what you're paying to purchase on a per unit basis when it comes to like value add deals. You'd probably pay about the same or maybe slightly better for a brand new product that's larger, has more square footage, has more features, it's brand new, and can command more rent. So when you do the math, the profit in these deals, when you do ground up construction, is just a lot more compared to the value add deals. Value add deals give you a sliver. Ground up construction gives you a lot. When there's a lot of returns to be had, I consider those to be safe deals. Of course, there are lucrative deals, but the lucrative deals are more safer. Right? Of course, apples to apples, like if you're comparing the same asset class is what I'm saying, right? Like I'm not comparing a multifamily to a very lucrative hotel deal. That will be completely different. But multifamily to multifamily, same kind of neighborhoods. If you did a value add and then compared to a ground up construction, the profit margin is so much healthy when you do ground up. So then I decide, okay, that's where I want to be. Because that's where I can create like really big returns for people and for myself, right? And if I did that, then the question is, okay, should I be doing traditional multifamily, like 3-story, large, classic apartment building with amenities and all of that? Or should I be doing townhouses? What should I do? And that's a very opportunistic question, meaning it depends on the market. It depends on the local market. It depends on exactly where you are. That will determine what kind of product you build. So right now, we're only looking at properties that can support townhomes for the starter family. Right? When I say starter family, it's the young married couple, dual income household, or young married couple with a child or couple of children, and they're fed up of the apartment life. They want to like move in, but they're still saving up to buy their home. That's the target demographic that we're going after. We find them to be very stable, economically, right, very stable, and they are responsible people, right? And there's a lot less churn. Like people stay for longer, 3-4 years sometimes, if you lease them a 3-bedroom townhouse, a nice townhouse, than you would see in like a 1-bedroom situation or a studio or even a 2-bedroom, So we like that. And which means we have to now, we're very interested in properties that can get us that, because the rents are so big in those units, and the cost of construction compared to like a 2-bedroom versus a 3-bedroom, for example, is like it's marginally up. And you mix way more in rents. To give you an example, on 200-unit property, if you did the math, assuming a 5% cap rate, $150 increase in rents is equivalent to $4 million in profit.
And that's
additional dollars in profit.
That's $150 increase per unit. Correct?
Correct.
And you said that was at a 5 cap?
5 cap. It's approximately $4 million, right, of value. So then you like trade these things, right? So you build a model, you say, okay, 2 bedrooms, what's my cost of construction? Where can my rents go? And what is my yield? And if I may build those all out as like 3 bedrooms, then what is my yield, right? We definitely don't want to be in the studios and 1-bedroom play, because there the cost of construction on a per square foot basis is so high, and your rent per square foot is high, but your rent per unit is low, that it's tricky to make those work well. But if once you get like a 2s and your 3s, I like that better, because your cost of construction is like marginally over, because you have like the same kitchen in the studio. You have one kitchen in all these units, right? So whether that be a studio or a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom, it's just one kitchen. So in the studio, it's one kitchen for like one guy paying low rents. In the 3-bedroom, it's like the same one kitchen, the cost of construction of that kitchen, the same number, but now you have like a tenant that's like paying way more for that same investment or that same cost. So your yield is much better. So that's what attracts us there. So very stable marketplace, very stable demographic, strong financials, responsible demographic. We like that, and we like to play in that. Yeah.
And there's a couple other reasons I would say too, as well as it fits to this model, is that, if the entire strategy and goal is to exit in a few years and go through these 5 iterations over 10, when you're in the build to rent marketplace, you've got multiple exit strategies, right? You can sell the whole shebang at once, or you can sell them individually one by one. So it gives you options, which is really nice. Also, because these investors are rolling to the next opportunity, with value add, it'd be hard to back into that next receiving of capital, right? How do we find a property to fit that's coming in? But with ground up, built to rent, we know exactly down to the unit, the exact parcel of land, the piece of dirt we need, and to the unit, how many units we need to take that incoming capital. So it also gives us, a clear pathway and a clear runway in terms of, what needs to be built.
Yeah, one thing that I find really interesting is with us turning these properties over every 2 years, a lot of operators would say, well, I've just built this beautiful property and I have now become emotionally attached to it, perhaps, and I want to hold on to it for cash flow, but also because it's a beautiful property. I mean, look at it, I think that's one of the things that we all agree on is we want to own beautiful properties. One of the things I don't like about value add is that you go look at some of the properties and it's a dump. I mean, they're not all like that, but there are some that it's just a dump, and it's not anything that you really want to be proud of. Yeah, I want to drive past it and say, hey, I own that, and feel good about it. And I always wanted, even as a kid, to own those really big, beautiful buildings. But honestly, one of the big things I see here is that if you're gonna build a property, lease it up, stabilize it, and sell it in 2 years, then, you're not gonna wait for that. You're going ahead and getting that 2x equity multiple immediately, and then selling it and moving on to the next one. You're not sticking around for cash flow. It's a lot more work, though. The main point is that that's a whole lot more work. And I think a lot of operators shy away from that because that's a heck of a lot of work. Being in the building process is an all-consuming process. There's so many moving parts. There's so many things that can go wrong. It takes a whole lot of oversight and persistence, and I think a lot of operators are not willing to do that. So I think one of the real unique things about 10Y is the level of effort that the GP team is putting into the project. I mean, you're not just saying, hey, let's go through a little bit of a tough spot here and let's build this thing in 2 years or 3 years, and then let's hold on to it for another 7.
Just kick it
and just relax. You're saying, as soon as we're done with this one, let's move on to the next one.
Yeah,
that's a lot more work.
It's a lot more work, But the question is, okay, what is the intention of the group? If the intention is to collect a few extra dollars of cash flow that make no difference to your life whatsoever, then you can hold on. But we're not like that, right? We want to go to the next level. And our investors that come to us come to us for that reason, that we have a methodology here that will take them to a meaningful, substantial destination that everybody wants in their life. Like all of us want early retirement so we can enjoy our lives, right? And here's a way to do it. And nothing, worth having in life is easy. Everything's hard. It's got to be hard. Only then there's value. So we understand that. We are up for that. And our investors understand that as well. There's a lot more work here on our part that we have to put up in order to be able to deliver the strategy. And that is how we unlock these big gains. That's how we keep the model going. And we're not here so we can collect a management fee. In fact, we charge 0% management fee. and make a cash flow for ourselves and just call it a day and then just hold on to it forever because it's funding my own personal lifestyle, the operator's lifestyle. We don't do that. We align with the investors and we say, okay, it's a 10-year journey. Our goal is to get you there, which means our investors have to be, come with us from deal to deal to deal to deal. So in this whole business model is built on investor loyalty or investor faithful, whatever you want to call it, right? Repeat investors, if you will, right? So if it's built on that, the only way it's going to happen is if we take care of our investors first and foremost, and then we take care of ourselves. We got to put our investors first, always. And for that, we'll bust our the effort, whatever, right? And push to get there. And our investors see that. And that is why they continue to come with us.
Yeah, I thought it was real interesting how, Bala, I guess with your tech background, you wanted to make sure that there was a return of capital to all the investors before the GP team took any kind of payment.
Yep.
There's no acquisition fee. There was, there weren't a lot of the fees that you see in a traditional syndication.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially the GP team will make no money at all until the investors have 100% of return of capital, and now they're in the money and they're making profit, and only then, which does align us. There's no conflict of interest here. We're completely aligned with the investors to see to maximize the return on investment.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is a very key thing. Like you said, I bring that knowledge or appreciation from the tech world, because in the tech world, deals are architected in that fashion. You have what is known as the 1x return of capital or 100% return of capital, whatever you want to call that. That's always number one in the waterfall, right? First, you return the capital. Then whatever profit you make, that profit is then shared between the LPs, the investors, and GPs, the operators, right? And then we do have a stretch goal beyond that and so on. So our waterfall is very simple. We do first 100% return of capital back to investors. And after that, every dollar of profit is split 70-30 until we 2x their equity investment. After that, whatever is left gets split 50-50 between LP and the GP. Right? So very simple model. But the uniqueness about our model is we put 100% capital return at the top of the waterfall. That happens first before anything else can happen. A lot of other deals in the market, they don't do the 100% return, right? They would just start off by saying 70-30.
Or maybe they have a pref of something sort,
like
a pref, and then it goes into the.
If you actually do the math on those deals, when times are good, everything's fine. Right?
Yeah.
But we always optimize for when times are bad, because that's when you really build the relationship. Right? So you're always optimizing for that. And if you do the math, then when times go south, for example, then in those kinds of deals where you're just paying an 8% or whatever, 6% pref you're paying these people, and then after that you start to divide every dollar, then you're actually eating into the investor's capital. You're paying yourself, the operator, before even a profit is seen, And
right.
I don't think, especially for what we are doing, that's not a good fit, because like I was saying, our business model is built on investor loyalty, repeat investor. And if we have to keep them happy, keep them satisfied, and keep them appreciative of what we're doing here, then we have to put their interests first. And their interest first is capital return first. Everything else happens afterwards.
How many investors were there in the Zenit Thomas?
So it was $18.5 million raise that we completed in about 4 weeks.
18.5 million in 4 weeks.
In 4 weeks.
Okay.
And we have about 32 investors. So the average check size was about $685,000.
Wow, that's That's astonishing.
Yeah, it's high. The speed by which it was, the raise occurred, and also the investment amount, both were exceptional. And I've had the opportunity to be in many, many raises. And, the real big key difference, I think it came down to one thing, and that was the messaging. It was the story, right? It's the methodology.
It's what we're doing that's different here. It's the exponential multiplication, right? Doing something where we're offering people a destination, an early retirement, a hope to an early retirement, a path to get there. It's very different.
Versus a deal, right? So it's a destination versus
It's not
a
a
deal.
15% IRR story.
Yeah.
Right.
Which,
Yeah.
like you said, they're vanilla. That's everywhere. That's what everyone hears. So when they hear this, everyone has that, like,
Yeah.
whoa.
And the key thing that I really want to highlight is all these deals are vanilla deals. We're not inventing some crazy kind of property with some crazy revenue model that doesn't exist. No, we're just building the same product, same real estate asset class that everyone else is building. There's nothing that's different about what we're doing. The only differentiator is in the business model, right? The financial business model, where we're saying, okay, hey, if you're building something or you're adding value, then there is an explosive phase or an exponential phase where the value is added quickly, and your capital, your value of investment jumps from whatever you put in, maybe 2x, 3x, whatever it may be. It jumps. That initial jump happens, and after that, instead of holding it for long-term cash flow, we would start thinking about selling it. Right? So that's the only key differentiator. But other than that one differentiator, if the asset itself, what we build, how much we rent it for, how we manage it, is plain vanilla. Right? There's no secret sauce there. Nothing.
You talked about the upside of the investment. Talk to me a little bit, or tell us a little bit about the risk side of it. Do you see this as being a high risk deal? A lot of times, we talk about asymmetric returns, and that's a deal where there's a lot of upside and the risk is relatively low.
Yeah.
Do you?
I think every question is very nuanced when you think deeply into it, right?
Sure.
Different facets, different spheres of information start to unravel if you think deeply about any subject or any question for that matter. So if people walk around and then flippantly make a comment saying, "Hey, ground up construction is very risky," yeah, ground up construction is risky. So is driving your car every day. You know what I mean. There's a lot of factors to really understand. Risk is about capacity. Risk is about capacity. If you have the capacity, you can take the risk. And then all of a sudden it becomes a safe deal because you have the capacity for it, right? You have the capacity, you have the wherewithal, you have the knowledge, you have the infrastructure. Now, for you, it's no longer a risk because you can do it, right? But for a newbie who doesn't have a team, wants to do 200 units ground up, yeah, it's very risky, So it's all about a balance between capabilities and the task that needs to be accomplished, right? It's that balance, right? So you always have to build capacity before you take on a challenge. Right? So you've got to be very mindful, very careful about that. That's point number one that I want to make. The next is, touching on the same subject of risk, is what is a risky deal? If it is, because there are multiple ways in which you can categorize risk, right? One is you could say, this deal is very hard to do. That is what I would call execution risk, right? It depends on the execution capability of the team. We were talking about capacity. It's in that bucket. It lies in that bucket. The next bucket of risk is financial risk, right? So it is, is this deal a safe deal? Is your underwriting good? That's financial risk, right? In that bucket, our deal is always superior to any value-add deal out there, simply because we don't operate on razor-thin margins. Our margins are hefty. They're thick. They're big margins. Right? So any big margin, if you can take care of the execution risk, you now have a very safe deal. Right? So you have to play in these two buckets always, right? It's the more capacity you build, you can take on slightly more difficult projects to do that are actually safer financially for you. So what would you rather do? Would you rather pick the deal that requires no work but has ultra thin margins and say it's low risk deal? not? It doesn't make any sense, right? Or would you be a newbie, come in and then, say I'm going to build 1,000 units. I have no experience and, my team knows nothing. And let me go do that because on the other side, the financials look really good. So it's a safer deal. That's also wrong, right? So the right answer is to see where you want to go and then build the capacity to take on that risk. And so you're in the safe realm, right? So it's the question of how you build your business operations carefully, meticulously.
So either one of you could answer this, but tell me how you envision 10Y growing over the next, few years. I know that we just had the groundbreaking ceremony on the very first property, and it's certainly a very exciting time for us. And I know you're thinking forward. You're forward thinking people. You're not the kind of people that are going to revel in your what you did yesterday. It's all about what you're doing today. So how do you all see the 10Y project growing over the next few years?
For me, one of the things that I guess was that spark. We could come back to that love moment we had with you. Let's go back to that.
Yeah, the bro moment we had. Yes.
Yeah, the bromance.
Let's go back.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Yeah. Should we hug? Maybe we should hug. Was the mindset of, and you just said it, which is think about your end goal, and then work your way backwards. So we've spent an excruciating number of hours figuring out what that end goal is first, right? And the 10Y method kind of lays that out for you, right? We got a 10-year roadmap at a minimum, right? At its shortest.
Yeah, that's the shortest execution.
At the shortest execution. And now we've done all the spreadsheets. We've looked at the number of cohorts, developed a team, and really have worked our way backwards to today where that gold shovel went into the ground. And now it's just a matter of executing that plan. So, to me, to answer your question, where do you see this going? It's that 10-year journey. It's those 4 cohorts over the course of 10 years at a minimum. But like any other business, there's gonna be other opportunities, other things, other shiny objects get thrown in front of you. I think it's gonna, we're all entrepreneurs here. It's gonna be, take some diligence from us to resist those urges and to go down those paths and to go through a season of no, right? And just stay focused monomaniacally at the task at hand, because as this grows exponentially, it gets pretty darn big, right? So it's going to take a massive amount of capacity, to use your word, to be able to execute on this plan. So now it's just the plan's in place. It's just a matter of we just got to do it.
I know we've talked about how it's like a snowball, and it just gets bigger and bigger. If we start out with $18.5 million of equity in this very first deal, and we double our money. So we've now created that 2x equity multiple. Now we've got twice that much going into the next deal. And so it is kind of like a snowball effect in that it gets bigger and bigger as time goes on.
Yep. It gets real big. Yeah.
It gets real big, real fast.
Yeah. Just take 18.5 and multiply it by.
That's just the equity part.
Yeah. Right. By 32. Yeah.
But the $18.5 million is helping us execute a $60 million project.
Right, because we're leveraging.
We're leveraging.
So we're not.
So if you take the $60 million deal, the next deal has to be 120 at least, and then the next one has to be 240 million. The next one will be 480 million. Then it would be $1 billion in the final cycle.
So we could be talking about,
multiple deals.
Sure, I mean it could be
4 deals, 5 deals in successive cycles when it becomes really big. Yeah.
And I think, Bala, you told me this before, but in your past investment history, have you been able to successfully create that 2x equity multiple within a time frame of 2 years or thereabouts?
I mean, everything in real estate is approximate, right?
Sure.
So 2 years is like a guideline, really. But some deals, like I was saying, the first deal actually took us only 10 months, but we held on to it far too long, and then we sold it after 22 months. Then there was a deal that I did in Oakland where I was in and out in like 9 months, right? there are deals that I've like held on for 4 years. So it's kind of all over the place. But on an average, in 8 years, we hit our numbers, right? So you can work back. And then, so in our journey, it took us 1.6 years each cycle.
And how many multifamily deals have you done that have gone full cycle?
11 deals so far.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about the location of those deals. I know you said that you first started with the 12 unit in Dallas, I believe.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned a property in Oakland.
Yeah.
Where were the other 9
So
properties?
I was essentially operating. So my first deal was in Dallas, and then after that, I did another deal in Oakland, and then when I sold the Dallas property, I reinvested that also in Oakland, so I could execute it. I was like closer, So we just went parallelly on those deals, and we did those deals together, me and my wife. So yeah, I started out in Dallas. Most of my deals were done in Oakland. And then I also have one deal in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And then another deal that we did in New Braunfels, Texas.
Okay. And I know we talked about it briefly, but I'd love to hear what you guys love about the Phoenix area. I know, Bala, you mentioned earlier that there was a lot of a business here and a lot of employers here. I'd like to hear what other factors really have attracted you to Dallas. I mean, to Phoenix. I know it's one of the hottest markets, but I'd love to hear what it is
I
that
think
you
in the
love
US,
about this market.
in the US today, there are like 3 states that are doing really, really, really well in terms of positive inbound migration, net inbound migration, right? Which means the population is constantly going up because more people from outside are moving in than people leaving the state, right? So there are 3 states that are really doing well in terms of population growth. It's Texas, Florida, and Arizona. That's it. There may be other states also where this may be happening, but not to the extent that it's happening in these 3 states. And I believe the Texas market is saturated. Florida as well. Arizona market, not so much. I'm sure parts of Phoenix, people would argue that it is, and I would agree, but there's a lot more opportunities here than those 2 other states. A lot more opportunities here compared to Texas and Florida. Right? And so strong population growth, a strong economy. And when we look at a strong economy, we always look for diversified economy, diversified industry. Right? And by that, I mean that no particular industry should be more than 20% share of the economy. That really points to a diversified economy. And Phoenix is doing pretty well there. I think the biggest industry here is only 14%. The top industry is 14%. So it's very diversified. It's got everything here. It's got it's got healthcare. It's got technology. It's called construction. It's got biotech. It's called research institutions, universities, huge universities. Chip manufacturing, like semiconductor is a big part here. A lot of self-driving cars. The R&D happens here, and the testing happens here in Arizona as well.
They actually have those here in Phoenix, don't they? I think I saw somebody.
I saw one today, actually. A car drove by. It was very weird looking. I looked in there. I was like, is that one of them? And there's nobody in it. Like, nobody was in it. It was just driving by itself. It was very freaky. Yeah, I ran the other way.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was
actually.
cool. It's pretty cool, yeah.
Waymo has a research center here, which is Google's self-driving car. And then so does GM's Cruise. They're also here. So yeah, because I think this was one of the first states to say you can come in here, build and test. I will give you the permission to do that. So yeah.
What about the demand? You know, I know you talked about the rapid population growth, and you talked about how many employers there are and how many job opportunities there are, which obviously are going to drive, you know, people into the area. And I know there's like a massive migration from other states into the Phoenix area. But talk about the demand a little bit. I mean, I know there's a lot of development here, but is that development keeping up with the demand?
Yeah, I mean, you know, in some areas they are. Like, for example, you know, one big thing that is happening here, which is happening very organically and probably not caught the limelight of the news media, is Phoenix is becoming like the distribution hub for continental America. And that's because, at least the western side of the USA, and that's because the LA port is beyond capacity, and it's so much more expensive to run logistics out of LA, California, than it is to run it out of Phoenix. So all the major companies with big retail presence and or manufacturing sector, whatever it may be, they're all moving their logistics and manufacturing to the Phoenix space, right? So Phoenix, there's an area in Phoenix called the Tri-City Junction of Phoenix, Avondale, Tolleson, which is where our Zenith Thomas is located. There's a ton of job opportunities there because there's a constant influx of companies coming in because they want to run their logistics facilities out of there. They want to run their manufacturing base out of there. Amazon alone has like 11 warehouses in that little area. And they own a lot more land, and they have plans to build even more, right? And there's like Pepsi, there's FedEx, UPS, Target, Walmart, Costco. Everyone runs their logistics out of this space. Right? So all these, and it's only like a 7-hour drive from LA to Phoenix, right? So when the shipments arrive, they just get trucked over here, and then the operations go out of here. The logistics, the shipping nationwide happens out of here. It's much cheaper. It's much more efficient for them than to operate this out of LA. So this has been organically happening for the last 3 to 4 years, and this really like created a lot of jobs. And in that area has been a boom because of that. So if you go to that area, you will see that there's so many jobs, there are not many homes. So there's like really tight home/apartment inventory, and so much more people moving in that rents in this area are going crazy simply because there's so much demand and so little supply. So a lot of developers there, including us, we have projects there and we're building there to take advantage of that and to supply to that demand, right? So we're doing that. And yeah, but there are other markets where, you know, like Biltmore is a very Class A swanky part of town. And if you go there, there's a lot of Class A apartments in that area in Biltmore that have been like overbuilt for a long time. And there's not much more demand there right now because people have been paying like insane rents for a long time, like $4,000 for a 1-bedroom apartment. Right? It's not working anymore. Right? So there's you see a lack of demand, right? But in other places like you'd see a real spike in demand. Yeah, so it's kind of like mixed, but like any other market, right? So whereas if you ask the question at the MSA level, you can only add up all of these metrics and then say whether it does a net supply exceeding demand situation or a net demand exceeding supply situation. In Phoenix, it is still the other way around. The demand exceeds supply. I think last year they just like met the demand neck to neck. And this year, because of the interest rate environment, a lot of planned construction have been like abandoned, which is great news, right? For operators like us, because we will pick up those projects and we will do it because the demand is wherever it is and supply is not coming up to meet it, which means that's a good time to go build. Yeah, so you got to be like careful, mindful, and go in on the like study every sub market rather than the whole market as a whole, and then place your bet.
Gentlemen, I think it's been great talking to you. I think we've got such an amazing team that you all have put together, and it's been a great day. What an awesome opportunity to go out there today and be on the property and have the investors there with us, and just kind of celebrate the fact that we've jumped that first hurdle. And anyway, but look, I really appreciate both of you coming on and spending some time with us today. And I hope you'll come back again.
Absolutely. Love to.
Thank you, Gib.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Gib.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Go Big with Gib. If you haven't already, go follow us on social media at Gib Irons. We'll see you next time.